Hello everyone, I'm the Saxy Gamer. Today we're here for something a little bit new. It's a thing that a lot of people have been requesting, so I figured I'd go ahead and do it, and I'm going to give my first impressions on the new leaders in Gathering Storm, starting with the Inca, just because they're the most recent. Since I did miss Canada and Hungary, I am going to go back and do those, and I'll try to do the other ones, like at the day that they release the first looks for the leaders. But for today, we're going to be taking a look at Inca, and it's just going to be a rather informal kind of video, and just looking through the various things that we saw in the first look, and me kinda giving my thoughts on what I think about the leader. Before we get into today's video, though, we have a quick message from our sponsor. This is my very first sponsorship video, so don't laugh too hard, but we have a word from Massdrop. Looking for a new headset this holiday season? The AKG M220 Pros from Massdrop are great for both gaming and professional use. Featuring a lightweight yet durable design, the 220 Pros can be worn for long hours in the studio or for an extended gaming session. They have easily one of the cleanest sound stages that I've experienced thus far, and even managed to compete with my daily drivers, the Bose QC35s, for roughly 1/9 of the price. Pick them up this holiday season either as a gift for someone else or as a treat for yourself. Check them out and get a $15 discount by using the link in the description below. Alright, so the thing I think I'm going to look at first with the Inca is just this page that shows all of their abilities and all of their unique things, and I'm just going to kind of talk about some of the stuff and what I see, what I like, and what I don't like. I'm probably not going to try to pronounce too many of these things just because it would be absolutely just atrociously bad. But their first ability there, they get +1 food for every mountain tile in the origin city with all of their domestic trade routes, and then they gain that unique tile improvement when foreign trade civic is discovered. So I think this ability, I think it's going to be good, but I'm not sure how good it's going to be. I would imagine that the Inca are probably going to have a pretty heavy mountain spawn bias, and I believe that they are reworking just kind of how terrain generation works in Gathering Storm, so there probably is a higher chance of you getting good mountain ranges. So you can get really good food out of that, and if I scroll through here, I believe there was a point where they showed some of the trade routes. Yeah, like this one right here, as you can see. Also, let me enable in OBS my cursor to be captured, because it's probably not being captured right now. There we go. But if you take a look right here, you can see that they are going to be getting plus like 9 or 10 food from sending this trade route from their capital, and they do have a good number of mountains in the capital, but even so, plus 10 food, that is insanely good. Like, that's a ton of food. And also, don't mind my dog, he's sitting here eating his toy right now, so if he makes any noise, I apologize. But this is going to be a lot of food, which is going to mean that you can probably get your cities up to incredibly high population, and I think that's just kind of the big shtick with Inca as a whole, is that they're going to get a lot of food from a lot of sources and just grow really, really tall. So, as I've complained about in a number of other situations, the current meta with Civ 6 is to just play wide, and Rise and Fall kind of helped that out a little bit with Governors because it made it slightly more viable to play tall, and if you don't know the difference between wide and tall, so wide is a lot of, like, smaller cities, and tall is a few very highly developed cities. That's kind of the difference. And the district system in Civ 6 made it that playing wide is generally a lot better than playing tall, and it just kind of limits the number of playstyles you can have. But like as I mentioned, the Governors in Rise and Fall kind of help this out a little bit, and I think that this Civ is going to be one of the ones that you definitely can play tall, just because of how much food they can get. They can grow very quickly, have a lot of spots, or have a lot of district slots available in their cities from having such a high population, and thus you're going to be able to get yields that way. So instead of expanding to, like just settling 11 or 15 cities, you could probably make do with the Inca on just a few, because of all of this food they get. So they get all this food from this ability here. They're going to be getting food from mountain tiles, and they're going to be getting food from the Terrace Farm. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. So their second ability is just Mita or something like that, and it allows them to work mountain tiles, and mountain tiles provide +2 production and +1 food for every adjacent Terrace Farm. And I think that this is actually really good, especially if they're going to play around mountains so heavily. I think it is very good that they actually get yields from them. Simply because in most games, mountain tiles are dead tiles, and you don't want to have mountain tiles in your territory. So therefore, civs that generally play around mountain tiles are going to struggle to get some yields if they have too many mountains in their city borders. But that's not going to be a problem for the Inca, and I think this also might be good in the early game because 2 production tiles are kind of valuable. You always have to balance food and production in the early game, but I think having more tiles that you can get +2 production from are going to be very nice. And the synergy of this with the Terrace Farm is really good. And we'll skip to the Terrace Farm right now. So the Terrace Farm is their unique tile improvement. It provides straight up 1 food and 1 housing for every 2 adjacent terrace farms, 1 food for each adjacent mountain tile, +2 production for each adjacent aqueduct district, and +1 production if adjacent to freshwater and not an aqueduct district. And then you get additional food as you advance through the tech tree, and this can just be placed on hill tiles. Interestingly, you can place it on desert hills, which I think is very, very interesting. So the Terrace Farm is... I'm not sure how I feel about it. One, I generally don't like to build aqueduct districts just because they don't feel very good, and it's probably just because of the general meta of Civ 6 of wide versus tall, that wide is generally better. So if I hit a housing cap, normally I don't really care too much because I don't want to grow too large if I have a lot of cities, because then I'm going to need a ton of amenities and it's going to be a problem. So generally I don't really care about hitting the housing cap, and I'm pretty much always settled on freshwater anyways, so I very rarely ever build aqueduct districts. With the Inca though, this could be interesting. Getting +2 food, or not +2 food, +2 production from your terrace farms could be good. +2 production it's still not going to be worth it, like in comparison to a mine. But if you are going for that incredible amount of incredible population, and then that 2 production could be good, because then you're getting a much more even balance of food and production. Because in the late game, I think mines provide, what is it, +4 production, or maybe even +5. And then if you get Roar Valley, then it's even more insane. So +2 isn't that much, and you have to have the aqueduct, but that's still not inconsequential, and it can help with a nicer balance to get that high population and still have relatively good production in the late game. The +1 production if adjacent to freshwater and not an aqueduct district, I think that part actually is very good. It doesn't say when the terrace farm is unlocked, does it? That's unfortunate. Because I think that +1 production from freshwater that isn't an aqueduct district is going to be very good in the early game. Because in the early game especially, a 2-2 tile is a very good thing to have, because then you get decent growth and decent production. So gaining +1 food and +1 production on tiles that are adjacent to rivers could be very helpful, because if you get that on a grassland hill or a plains hill tile that is adjacent to a river, then you're going to have seriously good yields on those tiles early game, and that's going to make it easier for you to push out units. It's going to make it easier for you to build districts, just because you'll have more production, you'll have more population to earn district slots out of. So I think that the terrace farms in the early game are going to be very strong. One thing that I'm wondering is, they are terrace farms. Are they going to get the adjacency bonus from feudalism that makes it so that, if you have 2 terrace farms next to each other, then they'll each gain +1 food? Or is that not going to be a thing because you get food from other sources like mountains, and evidently as you advance through the civic tree? So if they gain that boost from feudalism as well, then I think that the terrace farm is going to be very good. If they don't, I think it's still going to be decent, but I don't think it's going to be all that great. Just because food in production is a nice balance to have, but you don't get a lot of production, and it doesn't seem like you get that much food unless you have a ton of mountain tiles nearby. The only nice thing is, though, they are going to synergize with their other abilities, so that if you're building terrace farms near your mountains, then you're going to be getting food to the terrace farm from the mountain and food to the mountain tile from the terrace farm. So I guess that in a way kind of functions as the feudalism boost, and I guess that it would be maybe almost even OP if they got the feudalism boost as well. So I would bet they're not going to, and once again, that was one of those things that you can just hear me thinking through this, so this is how you know. It's definitely just my first impressions, very, very true first impressions. But yeah, I think that will probably be good if you're able to get a lot of mountain tiles. So really, the bulk of the terrace farm is just going to depend on what kind of world gen you get. If you get good world gen and you have a lot of mountain tiles that you can put a lot of terrace farms next to, and even better if you're able to get them next to fresh water as well, then I think the terrace farm is going to be strong. But if not, I don't think it's going to be all that useful. Let's go ahead and look at, what should we look at next? Let's take a look at their other unique tile improvements. So Once again, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that, but it pretty much acts as a tunnel, which tunnels are being added in Gathering Storm, and it allows you to move units through mountain tiles at the cost of 2 movement, and it can only be built on an adjacent mount tile and cannot be pillaged or removed. So I think that that is actually going to be very useful just because of the fact of you generally are going to want to settle around a ton of mountain ranges as the Inca. So having that extra mobility to keep your empire connected, and maybe, you know, like, I'm not sure if trade routes can move through tunnels. I would imagine that they can. So assuming that trade routes can move through them, then you can get really good trade routes that you don't have to worry about going out and around mountain ranges. So then you're going to have to run into the problem of protecting them from barbarians. They can just go straight through your empire if they go through these tunnels, and I think that that actually will be moderately useful. I don't know how useful this is going to be overall, though, just because I don't really know how useful tunnels are going to be overall, but I would imagine that this is at least moderately convenient for the Inca. I don't think it's going to really, you know, make them all that more powerful, but I think it's just going to be like a nice luxury thing for them to have. And then let's go ahead and take a look at the Inca's unique unit, which is the Warak-ak, which is, I don't know why, it's kind of a funny name. But it replaces the skirmisher, and if you don't know, the skirmisher is a new unit that is a step in between the scout and the ranger. So that's like a medieval era scout, effectively. And it apparently is stronger at range combat than the skirmisher, and it gets +1 additional attack per turn. I'm not sure what I think about the Warak-ak, just because I generally don't like the scout class units, because they're not, like, they get very easily stomped by a lot of other units. And that's kind of like why I don't like the Okichitas very much that Poundmaker has, is like, sure, they're kind of nice, but they're also more expensive than just building warriors, and they have the exact same, like, combat strength, so why would you build them over warriors? Sure, you can get some, like, extra movement and stuff, but it's not going to be anything that's all that impactful in comparison, and the promotion tree on the warriors is just flat out better. I do believe that they are changing the recon units promotion tree, so maybe that will help this out, but I highly doubt I'm going to find myself building a lot of Warak-aks to fight people. And I don't think that the Inca are a fighting civilization to begin with, so maybe a little bit of recon will be nice, because you can go out, explore things, maybe you can find any goodie huts that other people haven't found. You can deal with barbarians that you may find or that are trying to beat up on your civilization. So I think for those uses, I think that the Warak-ak is going to be pretty useful. But for, like, straight up war, I don't think it's going to be all that great, because it's probably just going to get smacked by a lot of other units, kind of like the Okichita, and it's just not going to be very good value. And I guess the Okichita doesn't really get smacked by other units, but from a value standpoint, it's definitely not really worth it. The +1 additional attack per turn, though, might make this worthwhile. The only problem is that you have to get in, like, they only have the 1-tile range, kind of like the Slinger, which means you're going to have to get right next to melee units, and I would bet that this probably has decent range strength, but not great melee strength, which is going to mean it's going to kind of be like a glass cannon, and the fact that you have to get it so close is probably going to mean that it's going to die if it gets attacked by more than one melee unit at a time. So overall, for the Warak-ak, that's, what a name. Such a tongue twister. So I think it has potential to be good. It's definitely going to be a very good scout unit. I can give it that. I'm just doubting the usefulness of scouting and recon units. This might be good for, like, maybe era score, because I believe that the one dedication gets you era score from discovering new continents and things like that. So I guess for that it'd be pretty good. But aside from that, I don't really envision myself building too many of these. All right, let's go ahead and look through the rest of the video and just see if there was anything else that I wanted to talk about. So there's the Terrace Farm right now. This is when they were talking about it. Interestingly, we have something up here that's nestled into these mountains, and I don't really know what it is. If I had to place a bet, I'd probably say it's a new wonder. And if it's just because this is the Inca and that's right next to a mountain, maybe even on a mountain tile, I would probably guess that up there is Machu Picchu. Once again, just a guess, though. Also, I don't know what this is. Like this little tile improvement that is above the Terrace Farm here. Maybe it's just a tile improvement that I haven't paid enough attention to, but it looks like maybe some sort of new resource. I could just be, you know, totally blanking right now, and it's something that's already in the game, but maybe I'm just crazy. But yeah, we have this Terrace Farm in the middle. We can see we have a volcano over here on the left that evidently blew up this holy site, which is rather unfortunate. And then it looks like we have just a rice paddy over here that's been improved. Aside from that, I don't think there's all too much in this picture. There's a little bit of stuff up here. I guess that's a builder that's just on something. Maybe looks like some sheep. But yeah, this is I can't say definitely, but probably a new wonder and probably Machu Picchu just because it fits in with the Inca very well. Oh, well, okay. Well, I skipped forward to like a few seconds into the video, and here it is. They did turn on the tile yields. So yeah, as you can see, these two right here are very good. They're both at 5 food, which are, yeah, 4 or 5. Yeah, 5 food is whenever it turns into the larger icon. So these two terrace farms are definitely very strong, because a 5 food, 1 production tile is not half bad. These ones, though, I don't know. Like, I'm not sure if I would prefer a terrace farm or if I would just straight up prefer to have a mine. Because 3 food, 1 production, like, I mean, sure, it's good. It's going to grow your civilization, but in the long run, I don't know if it's really worth it. I mean, I guess food indirectly gives you production just because then you can work more tiles and get production that way. So it's definitely going to be an interesting balance as to whether or not you want to build terrace farms or mines. I guess you do also have to take into account the fact that you're going to get housing from them being next to adjacent terrace farms, because as you can see, even though it's kind of blocked by the YouTube timeline down here, the city does have 17 housing, which is pretty insane. But yeah, I can definitely see the terrace farms next to mountains being useful, but the ones that are not really next to mountains, I don't know if they're really worth it, because even look, like this rice paddy over here has +6 food. These tiles, though, now that we can see over here, around the aqueduct, I definitely think that this is worth it, because then you get some 4 food, 3 production, 3 food, 3 production, all of those tiles. Those are very strong tile yields. You get a nice blend of both food and production, so you can grow your city nice and large. You can work a lot more tiles from having that population, and those tiles are going to have good production. So I think aqueducts are definitely going to be the way to go as the Inca. Even if you're already settled on fresh water like they are here, I still think the aqueducts are going to be the way to go, because that's such a good tile yield that you really can't pass that up, and you would be stupid to not utilize it. Yeah, so compared to like a mine on a hill, so those are grassland hills. Were the ones back here also grassland hills? I would assume so, because they are only 1 production tile. So from grassland hills, if you put a terrace farm there, it goes up to 3 food, 1 production. But if you put a mine there, it's, what was it, 2 food, 3 production? Yeah, 2 food, 3 production. So I would almost always take this over the terrace farm, because I think this is, yeah, I guess we could have just showed it right there. But 3 food, 1 production, or 2 food and 3 production, I think that's just straight up better, honestly. And I would pretty much take this 100% of the time over this terrace farm. So that's why I think that without mountains, I think the terrace farms are actually really weak tile improvements. Here they are, just showing some of this unique unit. They don't really show much here except just the fact. I guess we can take a look at what it has. So it has 40 range strength and 20 melee strength. See, 20 melee strength is just so bad, because you can see that even a spearman has more melee strength than that. A spearman is at 25 melee strength, and I'm pretty sure, what's a swordsman? Is a swordsman 35, I want to say? It's 30-something. So, like, these things are going to get obliterated by swordsmen if they have to get close enough to hit them. I guess the nice thing is, though, they do have 40 range strength, and you can attack twice, so that will do a lot of damage, but if there's more than 1 enemy melee unit that you're going to get in range of, you're probably just going to die, because that melee strength is just absolutely terrible. And right here, they're just showing like their little tunnel things that they have. So you can see that this guy's able to move through. The Warakak is able to move through. I guess I can play it here. Oh, he just kind of teleports over, which I think either they have quick movement. I really hope that they have an animation for it, because let's just take a moment to appreciate how kind of goofy that looks, that he just teleports literally like halfway across the map for that. But yeah, I think that those could be useful tile improvements, but I don't know. It does look like you can construct them outside your own territory, though, which I think is actually really interesting, because that allows you to expand and like get yourself out more. The other thing I wonder is, can enemy civilizations use them? Because if you're like enclosing yourself in the mountains and you're trying to play really defensively, then these things like could be both good and bad, because if enemies can use them, then you can get attacked and they'll just walk through your tunnels and come kill you. But if opponents can't use them, then I think they'd be really good, because that means you can get in and out while still maintaining your amount of defenses, your natural defense from having a big mountain range like this. But enemies can't get in. Also, I find it cheeky that there's 3 volcanoes just right next to each other right here. That's some crazy world gen. I guess this right here is a really good spot to take a look at what they've done with the new world gen, because you can see that There's probably continent splits around here because I believe that they're making it so that mountains spawn a lot more frequently around continent splits. But there's a huge mountain range, like huge mountain ranges in both parts. So if this is what the world is going to look like, I think that then the Inca are definitely going to be boosted up a little bit and how good they are. But if the world gen stays as it is, where you don't get giant mountain ranges like this, then I don't think it's going to be that good. But it does look like they have made some improvements to mountain ranges as a whole, so that way you don't get like random mountains dotted around, but rather you get these really cool looking ranges of mountains. And I think that stuff like this is going to make the Inca definitely pretty good. And then we'll just take a look at his good face. So that's pretty much it for this one, I think. It was definitely a bit of a rambly first impressions thing, but that's kind of what I was hoping for, just a rather casual little thing where I talk about what I think about the new leaders. So overall, I think that the Inca, they're probably not going to be super strong. Like they're definitely not S tier. And they're definitely not going to be A tier either. I think that they have a chance to be B tier, but I think they're probably going to fall in the B or C range just because they're able to grow a lot, but as outside of food, they really don't get that many bonuses to anything else. And sure, there's a lot of stuff that you can do with food, but generally the civs that just get bonuses to food lose out to the civs that just get straight up like yields to science or culture or, you know, better like amazing unique units or anything like that. So I doubt that they're going to be incredibly strong, but I don't think that they're going to be bad just because you are going to have that very nice play style of just being like kind of an isolationist and just growing up some like a few huge cities and using that population to work a lot of tiles, get a lot of districts down, and play like that. So overall, I think they're probably going to be a pretty decent civ, and yeah. So thank you everyone for watching. I've been the Saxy Gamer. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to like. If not, feel free to dislike. If you're looking for more Civilization 6 content, feel free to subscribe. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.